All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of They're Doing Construction Outside My Apartment Window, and I hope you can't hear it in the background. But really, welcome back to Unstuck, where me, your host, Ethan, helps you get more unstuck in life every week, whether that's your relationships, your career, your friendships, just any aspect of life. I'm here to help you get unstuck. So this week, I really want to talk about, honestly, maybe the most important topic that we've discussed yet on my podcast. And I'm just going to get right into it. Why are we here? What is the meaning of life? Truly, if you think about it, if you take a step back, like in the grand scheme of things, what exactly are we doing here? I think as humans, we try to find meaning, and we're unique in that nature because we're the only animals in the entire world that we know of that have consciousness and also search for meaning. And I think I'm just going to cut to the chase. I think the reason that we search for meaning is because our souls are actually pulling us towards that. They're literally telling us every day, hey, you need to go out and find a bigger purpose, something bigger than yourself. And I'm going to tell you why that is the case today. So, the reason this is so important is because I think a lot of times we lose perspective about why we're here or how lucky we are to be here. So, I just want to give you some numbers just to level set with you. The odds of you being here alive as a human, conscious on Earth in this present moment is 1 in 400 trillion. Let that sink in. 1 in 400 trillion. So the next time you're having a bad day or you just think, oh my God, I'm the most unlucky person in the world, think about that. The odds of you being here, 1 in 400 trillion. That's like taking a trillion dice that have 20 million sides each, throwing them all and hoping that they all land on the same number. It's virtually impossible, but you are here despite that. So I just want you to keep that in mind next time you're thinking that you're having a bad day or like you just want to give up. Just remember that. Like truly won the jackpot of the universe already. Really think about it, billions of years ago, this process started that got us to where we are today, to this exact moment. The wheels were put into motion billions of years ago to get where we are today. And the culmination of all of that work the universe did was basically laying the groundwork year by year, atom by atom, to get us to be conscious of the universe. Basically, we are the end product, the finished result of the universe attempting to experience itself. If you just think about that for a second, how insane is that? You are literally atoms from stars that were born billions and billions and billions of years ago, shot out into the universe, that have come together in a very particular manner that's perfect. And all of that produced life, which then we were the dominant species of the earth. And then for some reason, we were gifted consciousness. Why do you think that is? We are literally the end result of the universe's billions and billions and billions, perhaps trillions of years project to experience itself. If we know that the goal of the universe is to expand its consciousness because we are living proof of that, then honestly, our lives should be in service of that end goal. And I'll get into the specifics of that in a little bit. But if you just think about that, ultimately, the reason that we're here on Earth and the reason and the meaning behind life is to basically help the universe experience itself. And I'm going to get into how you can best do that and what that actually means on a day to day basis, right? Because a lot of this is a bit out there and a bit woo woo, but I'm going to break it down into like how you can take that message and then apply it to yourself to transform your life. So, why does this relate to you? Well, the universe has basically been putting together this unfathomable puzzle over the past however many billion years the universe has been around that we know over the past. And if you think about it, us as individuals, we are placed here as a very small piece of that puzzle. And the only way that that could happen and how it's happening today is by processes that were started billions of years ago. So if you think about what it took to get you here to this exact moment, your only goal in life and the only reason that you're here, or at least the most important reason that you're here, is to fit into that puzzle, right? You were given a very specific fate when you were born, and it's your job to basically figure out how you fit into this big picture of the universe and how you can help the universe expand its consciousness. And the way you do that is by a process called individuation. So What this means is realizing who you are as an individual and radically pursuing and expressing that. And the reason that's important is because the universe put you here for a reason. We don't know exactly what that reason is. We just know the direction it's heading and its ultimate end goal, which is to expand its consciousness. So if you think of yourself as literally a piece of the big puzzle that the universe is putting together, and in order to become the perfectly sized puzzle piece to fit into that puzzle, the only work that you have to do is become who you actually are and embrace your identity as an individual by this process called individuation. So, figuring out what makes you unique, what makes you special, is how you actually fit into this big puzzle. And I'm going to give you strategies to actually do this later in the episode. But for now, I just want to let that sink in. Is the reason that you're here is to fit into this giant puzzle, unfathomable. It's huge, it's massive. You can never comprehend it, it's beyond us. But what we do know is that the reason that we are here is because we are the universe experiencing itself for the first time that we know of. Perhaps this has happened in the future or the past, or it's a distant galaxy. But as far as we know, we are the only creatures in the universe at this point in time that are basically a representation of the universe experiencing itself. And the proof behind this is that feeling that we all have as humans, right? We have this feeling of wanting meaning. We're wanting to chase purpose. We want to chase meaning, right? We want to know, why are we put here? What skills do we have? Like, why are we special as people? And that's your soul pulling you in the direction of what you're ultimately supposed to become, which is a unique individual with your own set of characteristics, traits, your own personality, your own brain. And all of that fits into this beautiful, perfect puzzle to expand the consciousness of the universe and progress us and evolve as society. So, one part of the individuation process is understanding who you are. But perhaps the harder part of it is accepting who you are at the deepest level. And this isn't easy. It takes people their entire lives to do this. But I'm going to tell you why that's important. So, this problem that I'm talking about, this process of you needing to determine how you fit into the bigger picture of the universe, it creates a problem day to day because that feeling and that goal is at odds with your ego. And your ego exists as the piece of you that is trying to project meaning onto anything else that it possibly can, because the alternative is scary, right? It's uncertain. And the one thing our ego hates more than anything is uncertainty. So if you can really understand that concept and that your ego puts in structures and foundations and formulas for you trying to avoid this problem of like, who am I deeply and why are we here? What is the purpose of all of this? Your ego is in service of avoiding that question, which is counterintuitive, right? You want to actually answer that question, but you have to let your ego get out of the way in order to do that. In the absence of having a very clear definition of the question, why are we here, or what is the meaning of all this, the ego tries to project meaning onto any and everything. It projects meaning onto other people, like the meaning of your life. It projects onto other people, onto material wealth, onto positions of power, onto relationships, onto cars, onto jobs, like onto all of these things. And this is ultimately the root of suffering, right? We are trying to attach meaning to things that, in the grand scheme of things, are meaningless. But our ego thinks that if we do all of these things, we won't wind up alone, which is our ultimate fear deep down for all of us, is abandonment. So if you think about it, the ego is in service of one thing and your soul is in service of another thing. And those two come at odds, and it's the root of all suffering. So, addiction, neuroses, these are all responses to this lack of clarity around the question, why are we here? That is a painful question to ask, and it requires you to go down like into the depths of who you are as a person and really, really understand yourself. But in the absence of doing that work, our ego will seek out other things to distract us from that really painful question. And that ends up manifesting in terms of addiction, in terms of neuroses, in terms of like disordered thinking, all tactics that our ego implement in order for us to avoid the question. So to deny this truth that the meaning of life is to understand ourselves and become individuals in this process called individuation, to deny that truth is to suffer ultimately. Because at the end of the day, what's buried deep down inside of all of us throughout this process called individuation are a lot of ugly truths, right? We are paradoxical beings. We literally can hold two things to be true at once that are at odds with each other. Nothing is black and white. And this is the truth of the universe. Nothing is black and white. All of life lives in a gray area. So if you're able to hold that idea and that concept and hold the parts of you that really go against each other, if you can hold the parts of you that are loyal and trusting, but also jealous, that are beautifully honest with people and respectful with people, with the parts of you that get angry and that hate certain things and that get annoyed by people. If you can hold those two things true at once, that's how you understand who you are and accept who you are at the deepest level. And that's how you actually wind up answering the question that you are avoiding and that the ego avoids, which ultimately causes suffering. So the way out of this struggle and this problem is to actually figure out who you are and accept it on the deepest level. And this is really hard work. And in the process of this work, I'll lay out for you. There are a few things you can do to ultimately answer this question of like, who am I? What makes me unique? So, the first thing that you should be aiming for is to have a genuinely human experience. Go out and experience all of the things the world has to offer. Try to experience the full spectrum of emotion. Try to deeply understand other people and connect with them. Try to set goals, be disappointed with people, be disappointed with yourself. Understand all of these experiences are enriching you and enriching your consciousness enough to build wisdom. Building wisdom is the end goal because once you build wisdom, you can understand yourself on a deep level and understand why certain parts of you exist. And this is all part of the process of individuation. And what you can start doing today is every time something happens to you in life, stop and ask yourself, like, why is this happening? What is the reason for this? Because everything in life is pushing you towards this process of becoming an individual and is pushing you towards becoming this piece of this larger puzzle that we can't even comprehend or fathom. So, whenever you come to terms with this and you can ask yourself the question, why is this happening? Or what's the reason for this? That's whenever you start to understand and put meaning behind experiences, glean the wisdom from them, and then go back and draw conclusions about who you are as a person and project yourself into the future with this knowledge, doing 1% better every single day. So once you commit deeply to exploring what makes you so unique as an individual, a lot of the times what you'll uncover are these ugly truths about yourself. These perhaps less savory things that you've done in your past, or these less savory personality characteristics, savory things that you've obtained over time. And what you have to know about this, it's really important, is that you are not those actions. Society has deemed things good or bad, but in the universe only sees what is and what isn't. So while you could have a characteristic inside of you that maybe you think you're lazy, or maybe you think that you get jealous too easily, those aren't inherently bad things. They're just part of who you are. Once you can actually bring those to the forefront of your consciousness and your presence and accept them and accept that those are fundamental parts of you and love them, that's whenever you start making progress towards this goal of individuation. And what you'll uncover whenever you start doing this deep work is that in the past, you've done a lot of bad things. All of us have. We're human. It's part of our nature. This is literally how we were designed to make mistakes. And the reason for that is because owning your actions is the path to wisdom. Let that sink in. Owning your past actions is how you actually become wiser. Owning the consequences of what you've done in the past to other people and to yourself is the path to wisdom. So, inherently, as humans, whenever we are designed and evolved over time, we were literally programmed to make mistakes because that ultimately teaches us things about who we are as people and what we hold true, what our values are. And that ultimately serves the end goal of the universe, which is to fully experience itself and expand consciousness. And that's how you fit into the puzzle of why you're here. And once you understand that traits aren't inherently good or bad, and that society has placed meaning on certain traits and deemed certain traits good or bad or unacceptable or acceptable, once you realize that, it helps you actually accept, understand, and welcome the parts of you that might have been deemed unfavorable in the past by society. But remember this, the universe only experiences what is and what isn't. So just because you have all of these conflicting traits within you and all of these traits that have bad tendencies or that make you perform negative actions and like have negative consequences, all of that is by design. So once you accept that and you really let that sink in and you start accepting that, that's how you start the process of becoming who you are as an individual. Once you integrate all of those pieces of yourself into the current day and you start realizing, oh, this is what makes me unique. I love that part of myself. I love how I've been designed in order to like create a specific type of music, or I love how I can write specifically, or how I can have a perspective on certain things. These are all traits that make you an individual and make you special. You will never know exactly why you were given this unique set of skills and this unique specialness and like these unique traits. But what we do know is that by embracing them and becoming who we are at our core and accepting it and loving it, we basically become the perfect sized puzzle piece to fit into the larger puzzle that we really can't comprehend right now of the universe trying to experience itself and trying to expand its consciousness. So just remember that next time you're feeling down about yourself or you're having a terrible day, the odds of you being here on this planet alive right now in this moment are 1 in 400 trillion. That number is almost unfathomable to the human brain in terms of size. And that is the odds of you being here. Then when you layer in the odds of like you having certain people in your life and them also being here at the exact same moment so that they can also become individuals, and then the chances of you two individuals interacting and creating something greater is double that, 1 in 800 trillion, right? Whenever two interactions come together. And whenever you start expanding that to all the different permutations of like how many people are around you in your inner circle, maybe it's 10, then you start that number starts exponentially increasing. So if you really think about it, like the odds that you have your exact life right now are 1 in hundreds and hundreds and of trillions, maybe trillions of trillions. It's truly unfathomable. But what's beautiful is the complexity that we are in a situation and a circumstance where we really can't even fathom the scale of it is amazing. It's a miracle that we are even here. So next time you think about giving up, or next time you're at a crossroads or you're stuck in life and you just don't know what your next step should be, start here. Start by doing the work to understand yourself. This is why some people at this moment, when they're the most stuck in life, they seek out therapy, because your soul is calling you to understand yourself on a deeper level. So whenever you start to do that work, your soul is happy and you feel fulfilled because you're making progress towards step by step goal. And that's also why we suffer whenever we don't service that goal and we only service goals that are based out of the ego, that are materialistic and that are not conducive to becoming who we are, right? Our ego works against us in this manner because it truly projects meaning onto any and everything besides actually answering the problem deep down, which is even the reason the ego exists in the first place, which is so counterintuitive. But again, one of the main themes of my podcast is the counterintuitive nature of some of the most complex answers or the most complex questions in life having answers that go against the grain of the question itself. Like that is the nature of my podcast, is truly like the answers to the most complicated questions in life are counterintuitive, and that's why they're so not obvious, and that's why they're so hard to answer. So all that to say is, next time you're having a bad day or you feel down about yourself or you just find yourself asking, why am I even here? What's the point of all this? Just remember, the point of all this is that you are placed here for a very specific reason with the odds of 1 in 400 trillion. What are you going to do with it? You are literally made of stardust and you are made of the same essence of the universe, which is an unfathomably huge and perfect place that has this huge roadmap and this master roadmap designed for you. You are placed here in service of that. So, knowing that, what are you going to do with it? And I'll leave you with that question. So, I hope this was helpful. And thank you so much for making it to the end of the episode. I hope to see you again next week. All right. Bye, everyone.